right, welcome to episode 5 of the Third Pint Theory. You're with me, Michael Donaldson from Pursuit of Hoppiness, and
myself, Martin Bridges, the beer bigwig.
Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Michael.
Now, leading question, are you going to Beervana?
Let me think about that for about a second. Yes, of course I'm going to Beervana. I always go to Beervana. It's the it's a kind of it's a fixture in the New Zealand beer calendar. I don't actually think I've missed one in probably 17 years.
Wow.
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, that's super impressive, actually, Martin. I think I first went in 2011, and I don't think I've missed one, and I thought I was doing well. So
I remember the days when it was at the town hall in Wellington,
yep.
Which was an awesome building, but the beer was good. But the food was terrible because they were constrained by the catering that was provided by the town hall venue. So it was very exciting when they moved to their current location down at the Cake Tin, and got to kind of go nuts on the food.
Yeah, it's interesting that the food gets better and better every year.
Absolutely.
It's almost a reason to go. Like if you were, if you could eat as much food as you could drink as much beer, sort of, so to speak, it would be some day out, I reckon.
Absolutely. I think, I always, when they launched the list of breweries, which currently they're kind of doing this week, I think,
yes.
The brewery lists are coming out. I'm actually just as interested as when they announced the food list. There's always some great stuff. I saw that my local Cornish pasty company here in Auckland has already announced that they're going to be at Beervana again this year. They make really good pasties, so I will be looking forward to the perfect beer accompaniment in a Cornish pasty.
Yeah, it's not quite a Coles to Newcastle, but going all the way to Wellington to eat your local.
I know, it's a bit crazy, eh?
Yeah. The reason we're talking Beervana, folks, is our guest today is Ryan McArthur, who is the festival director at Beervana. And Ryan's been around the beer scene for many years, and it's a good interview. He's quite revealing about, I guess, the difficulties associated with putting on something like this and just how damn hard it is. I think I foolishly asked him in the interview if it was a full-time job. And it was like, yes, it's a full-time job.
It was really interesting. It was a really interesting conversation because I think anybody who kind of watches beer news around the world will say that festivals are struggling. I think the Great American Beer Festival has kind of scaled back in size a bit. Some of the other large American festivals have gone. Here in New Zealand, we're down to a small number of large festivals. Dunedin is coming up towards the end of the year. The Great Kiwi Beer Festival in Christchurch in the summertime. But Beers at the Basin was postponed last year, and I suspect may not come back. So I think those large festivals are really struggling.
Yeah, Auckland has really struggled to start and maintain any kind of beer festival. And I think there's a number of, niche or smaller festivals. coming up, and I like a small festival, but a big festival still has its place. But it's, as he said, it comes with big risk. So yeah, there's a lot of that conversation, and I thought actually in sort of in honour of Beervana, I thought I'd talk about my beer choice for this evening, which is a barley wine from 8 Wired.
Oh, very good.
Sticky. And it's brewed with dates, plums, and raisins. And honestly, it's. I mean, I love a beer that. And why I say it's a Beervana-ish beer because I don't know if you can read the ABV.
Oh,
it is
a measly 12.
A measly 12%. So I may not make it to the other end of this podcast. We'll see. But this is the kind of thing you have at Beervana, right?
Yeah.
I think imperial stouts really go off at Beervana, and they're always among the most loved beers and the people's choice. And yeah, it's this type of beer you can go and have a small sample of. Again and again and again, and that I kind of love that. I guess the smorgasbord element of Beervana in that regard. This beer is beautiful, by the way, absolutely delicious, and does not taste like it's 12%. So
excellent.
Yeah,
well, I'm up there in the ABVs as well, but maybe not quite at your level. I've got a Hallertau Stuntman, which has returned. It's a returning classic in honor of Hallertau's 20th birthday. 20 years is just mind blowing. Really. I remember when I first got into craft beer in New Zealand. Hallertau were there and were one of kind of the very small number of craft breweries around, and they're still going, and they're still cranking out great beers. It's awesome to have something like Stuntman make a reappearance. It's a bit of a throwback. It's that kind of so classed as a double IPA. I think at 8.5% kind of is probably up there. But it has a beautiful, absolutely punchy bitterness that I love, and it's great. They've brought back 2 or 3 of the classics. The original Maximus. Oh my God! And I had the original last night. Or the original redo of the Maximus, and my word, it's a really good beer. Yeah, I love it. And I love the Porter Noir is the other one they brought back. I think that's the name of it. Yeah, it is.
And they're having as we record this, I think they're getting ready for their 20th birthday party. Amazing merch that they've got. T-shirts designed by Otis Frizzell. Which is Hallertau, one of those breweries. They're just people in the know, Yeah. Steve and Haley Plowman, who started it, they just seem to know everybody. They always have great music. They have really good contacts in the music industry. It's a superb venue, the one out in Riverhead. I'd say if you're going to Auckland, you have to make the trek out there. It's one of my abiding memories of living in Auckland, is going out to Hallertau. I just love the place.
The thing that stands out to me now is I remember when, like 17 years ago going out to Hallertau, and it was in the middle of nowhere. There was this, there was this, this little, looked like a shed, with a brewery in it and nothing around it. And now it's like an entire suburb has
it's amazing.
Appeared on its doorstep. So it's just is the change out there is amazing. The good thing I like about Hallertau these days is I can get the bus. I can get the bus from Albany, and it pretty much drops me outside the door at Hallertau. It's like, this is public transport.
That is right. Yeah. Okay. You're the only person with anything positive to say about Auckland transport. But that is a pretty remarkable service, I have to say. Because it is. I always think it was sort of the back of beyond for such a long time, and now it's on a main bus route, which says everything about Auckland's development and growth, particularly in the northwest. But yeah, I can remember going there before it got the refurbishment to make it what it is now is just amazing. But I can remember the pokey shed, as you refer to it, and they sort of had a wee lounge in the front, which was very homely and I guess old-fashioned Englishy, maybe.
Such good memories of that.
I brewed a beer there for Beervana, one of the festival beers that I hooked up with Hallertau when Simon Nicholas, now of Hop Federation, was the assistant brewer. And Steve said, we're making a wasabi beer. And it's like, what?
Why?
And in fact, it wasn't wasabi, it was horseradish.
Right.
But it has that. And Simon and I spent ages grating horseradish to go into this beer. And honestly, your eyes are just watering and it's going up your nose. It was sort of a horrendous exercise. But I actually thought the beer tasted really amazing. It smelt of wasabi, but it didn't taste of any of that. Did not get very many votes from the judges because they used to judge those festivals.
I remember.
Yeah. People like, who's the Aussie guy, Mercurio?
Oh, Paul. I remember Paul.
He did some judging. Neil Miller was also involved. We're reminiscing about ancient Beervana, and maybe we should.
I think we should
come to modern Beervana. Yeah. So without further ado, we'll move over to our interview with Ryan and join you on the other side.
Yeah, welcome, Ryan, to the Third Pint Theory podcast.
Cheers.
I'm Michael Donaldson, your co-host, and with me is
Martin Bridges. And our guest is this week is Ryan McArthur, the festival director.
Yeah,
I believe is your title.
It is
for
now.
Beervana.
Yeah. No, that's me. It is now. Used to be Beervana manager, now festival director. I think after a certain point, you get to change the title.
It sounds impressive.
It does. Yeah.
We kind of kick things off by so how did you get to be festival director for Beervana? What led you to that?
Well, I've been involved in Beervana since I think I volunteered at the last town hall Beervana and had been as a punter the year before that. So that last town hall was, I think, 2010, and I'd been to a couple of years, I think, before that. And then when David Cryer from Cryer Malt bought the festival off the Brewers Guild, I ended up getting a gig as the beer manager. And that was just a 2-week gig around the festival, doing what it says on the tin, which is managing all that beer. And obviously back then the festival kind of bought all the beer. So my job was just that two weeks of accounting for it all coming in, making sure it all works, and then accounting for it all going out. And then I did that for 4 years. So that was 2011 to 2015. I thought I'll take the year off, and that was the year that the Wellington Culinary Events Trust bought the festival. And I thought, I don't really want to be involved this year. I'm kind of been to the festival, and then I ended up working on, I think it was like the Choice Bros stand or something, so I didn't really get a chance to go to it. And then, at the end of 2018, I got a text from Beth Brash, who is currently the festival director of Wellington on Plate, and she had been the Beervana manager for the first couple of years of the ownership, and then they had a woman, Kate, came in and did the 2018 festival, and then she went back to Melbourne, and I got a text late in the year saying, hey, have you ever thought about running the festival? And I think my answer was like, yeah, quite often. And then I went through the interview process and got the job. So I think I started a couple of, I think it was like 18th or 20th of December 2018. So my first one was 2019, and that all went well. And I thought, yeah, sweet. This is, the next one's going to be way easier. Got one under my belt, and the next year was 2020.
And something happened.
And then every year since then has been its own, set of specific challenges and sort of global economic catchphrases. I think I heard the 2026 one the other day on a podcast I listened to about Hollywood, where it was like, was it fix in 26? No. So I'm sorry.
Heaven in 27.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, man, there's someone just sitting there making these up now, for the coming years. Because, and that's me. So this year's my seventh running it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, before that, like I worked before Beervana, I worked for an importing and distribution company called Beer Without Borders, which is an offshoot of Shigotake down here in Wellington. And before that, I worked at Regional Wines for a couple of years. And before that, I kind of had a bunch of, better paying jobs worked at Te Papa for a number of years, starting funnily enough, within the events teams, and then moving into, I worked on a whole bunch of exhibitions, like the Formula One exhibition, and did a whole bunch of stuff there. Yeah, I have a film degree, which
is the festival director of Beervana a full-time job, or do you have other gigs?
And that's the question that most people ask. Does this take you? Is this what you do all year round? I'm like, yeah, it's what I do all year round. And it really just, like, I'm already working on stuff for next year's festival that's just sitting in the background, and when you kind of, this from May through to September, it's kind of madness, and then you get into, kind of reporting, and, we have a lot of different entities and interested and invested companies that are involved in Beervana, and we report to them all, and then you start working on the next one, and then it's Christmas, and then it's January, and then you're starting registrations for breweries, and it takes a while. Yeah.
Okay.
We're a very small team as well, so yeah.
Now you mentioned, all the crazy events, global events that happened. I think it's not like some big, COVID and whatever, and so just generally the shift to everything is more expensive.
Yep.
What impacts does that have on putting on something like Beervana?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest impacts is that we are nothing without the breweries that exhibited the festival. There's no Beervana without the breweries, and I don't want to go back to a festival that, previously in its first few years at the stadium, where the festival buys all of the beer and then is kind of like responsible. That model did not work. And so, the kind of global forces that affect breweries affect us because, I think we're a nice to have. It's not, I don't think any brewery, I mean, there are a number of breweries who do, like, say, we do one festival a year and it's Beervana. But it's still an event, it's still a festival, and it's, I think, possibly an easy kind of, line to cross off in your marketing budget if that's where you put the budget for this kind of thing. So, and then you've got just on the other side, because Beervana is obviously that intersection of the brewing industry and the events industry. And the events industry, you look at how many festivals over the last 4 or 5 years have kind of gone under or just don't exist anymore, or decided to take a couple of years off. And so we're in that point where those two rivers converge, as it were, and it can be pretty rough. So, for us, then it's like, well, how do we make this festival as valuable to exhibiting breweries as possible? How can they get the most out of this?
And so how does the economics of it work now? If you don't buy the beer, is it the breweries are now responsible for selling the beer themselves and you take a cut, a percentage from that?
So basically it's almost like the festival itself kind of sells real estate on the concourse in a way, and there's different sizes of real estate that you can purchase as a brewery, from kind of shared single stands right up to kind of massive stands. So the way that then breweries engage is dictated like how much they want to use on the concourse, and we're actually quite loose in how much space. If someone has a great idea and they need a little bit more, that's fine in the set stuff. So we sell exhibition space, and then breweries sell their beer. We take a commission off that, and then we provide the infrastructure for the festival. So the payment system, for example, is all provided by us and paid for by us, and we cover all the fees, the transaction fees. So none of that is going onto the breweries. It's also not going onto attendees, which has been a real. We brought that in a couple of years ago, and it's been a real game changer for the festival. And then everything else that happens at the festival is on us. So all the entertainment, all the music, all the decor, all the lighting, all those kind of things. One of the great things about the festival being at the stadium is that we have this huge amount of infrastructure, from the bathrooms to security to their operations team, who have huge amounts of experience, not just with a beer festival with Beervana, but all the events that they put on there. So sometimes, the venue is sometimes been to the festival's detriment, but it's also like a kind of incredible place to put something on. And everything that they do to make that stadium concourse better, it's better for us as well.
Yeah. That can get cold.
It can get cold. It's in winter. It's indoors,
Yeah. The festival that when you had it in November, was it 2021? Because of COVID.
Yeah, 2020.
That was lovely. Yeah, that was great. But
it was all right. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's other festivals that are usually on in that calendar. The calendar is pretty. We've thought about putting it in different times of the year, but August is Beervana, and it has obviously the other thing that the team here does is Wellington on a plate, and that draws huge crowds and huge amounts of people into the city like Beervana does, and it just means there's this there's so much more going on around that month. And for breweries, I think a lot of breweries, it's in the calendar, it's booked out. No one else is in August. It's the one that's on. So, yeah.
Talking of the venue, I guess I remember those old days back in the town hall. Those were, I think there was a charm about the town hall.
Absolutely.
There were some significant drawbacks as well. And I remember the early days in the stadium when you only had part of
when it was like, you'd kind of get to the end and you'd hit this black, curtain, and then have to kind of turn back. And I think it was like, it took many years before it was the full circle. I think it was 2015, the first year that the Trust took it over, and they bought it from Cryer. I think it was like 10 weeks out from the festival. So that first year, they had 10 weeks to put the festival on.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah. So anytime I think I've got a year and stuff, so I look at Beth and go, I remember what that 10 weeks was like for you.
What is the... You talked a bit about the kind of some of the benefits. Do you think Beervana is now intrinsically completely linked to that venue, or do you think is it something that you could see in the future that would change?
I love working with the stadium. They're great people. We have a contract for I think our contract has another couple of years there. It really just requires, if we were to move it, it requires the correct venue. And it would need to be kind of something special, and there's nothing of that size here. Tarkina, the new conference centre, we thought, maybe that's an option, but it's all carpeted. Mushing their oysters into brand new carpet there, and it's just then we need a place that can fit up to 16,000 people, and I quite like that it is a donut. We try obviously to look on the bright side of it, and that it's just this one big kind of reveal, and you don't really know what's going to be around the corner, and sometimes you don't realise you've done the first lap until it's the end, or you're rushing. So there's a lot going for it. We try to get onto the field a few times. We haven't quite got there yet, though. There's an event in Wellington on a plate that's going to be putting on a whole bunch of food by fire. Wellington on a great day, I think it's called, and so they are. Yeah, there's going to be this massive kind of event, 300 people each night for 2 nights on the field, eating food and drinking. So they're open to that kind of thing. 16 or 4,000 people, or whatever at a time, maybe not. Ground staff would be. So I mean, yes. I would never move it out of Wellington, and despite the April Fool's joke that I played a number of years ago, we're not taking it out of Wellington, and until there's a better venue. I mean, this just fits everything. I know when they first bought it here, they looked at massive tents and stuff, but the fact that you then have to bring in all of that infrastructure, all those toilets, and there'd be portaloos, and there's a lot to be said for all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. On that note, though, it seems just, and you touched on this as well with other beer festivals that have fallen by the wayside for various reasons. Auckland has really struggled to keep one going. And more we're seeing maybe smaller niche festivals that do quite well.
Yep.
Can a big beer festival keep going? Is there, obviously you believe there's a place for it.
I like to have a job
for it, but yeah. But it's almost it's holding out against the grain.
I think it is. I think a big part of why the festival has continued is because we really build it from the point of view that beer is the star, and that the breweries, like whatever the festival does, has to work for the exhibitors and for the breweries. So like, just this is something that we've been thinking about a lot, especially in the last couple of years. And then a couple of months ago, we held a kind of industry workshop with this very question about how can we, one, are we pointing the ship in the right direction, and two, how do we keep it relevant for the industry? So it was a kind of select but selected group of people that I went out to, lots of breweries and brewery staff and owners that wear different hats within the industry as well, and just kind of put them in this virtual room together. And it was run and facilitated by Creative HQ here, and just kind of like, that very question, how do we keep it relevant? How do we continue to make it something that's valuable to breweries? There's a kind of, I guess, it's interesting, I think, what you said about, you have these kind of smaller niche events and then, some really big ones. And I kind of see that that's kind of, I guess, the future. There's a little more risk, obviously, there's less risk in the smaller ones, but we work with some of this, like Winter Ales is on this weekend, and I give them all my taps for free because it's a great festival that is dear to my heart, and I want to see them succeed. And sometimes those things feed into the festival with Beervana itself. And then the other thing is with Beervana is that it needs to continue just to be an excellent time out with your friends, and we're always laser focused on the specifics and the details about what it means to breweries and beer fans. But as my wife keeps reminding me, usually about a month out from Beervana when I'm freaking out, half the audience at least are there just to hang out with their friends. They're not all beer geeks. They just know that this $55 ticket is great value for the night, and they're going to spend another 50 or whatever they want to spend there. But they have a great time with their friends. The beer's great. The food's great. There's some weird-ass monsters roaming around, or some guys on some bikes that you don't expect to be there. And that the breweries, produce these kind of stands and this expression of their brand in this kind of fun. I mean, what do we call it? Beer Wonderland, I think, is the kind of the tagline for a lot of it. And in that regard, it's kind of, I think, unique for festivals, and it's ours.
One of the things that's of been huge interest in the last couple of years is the overseas breweries that you've managed to attract. You had the German breweries last year, and I think that was a really great experience to see what they brought and kind of compare it to what's happening here. And this year you've got some breweries coming from South Korea. I don't think I've ever drunk any South Korean craft beer, so I'll be looking forward to that. How do you come up with the idea of where they're going to come from, and how do you get them to come here?
Yeah, I mean, there's always since, even before it went into the festival, went into crier ownership. The last year at the town hall, we had what's-his-face Sam from Dogfish Head came over, and did a couple of collabs, or did that collab with Epic, and then once it moved into the stadium, there was for a number of years a kind of sister city relationship with Portland, Oregon, and then there was we had Japanese brewers, we had the Sierra Nevada beer camp, and then in 2019 we had the UK brewers, and it's always it's always exciting to be able to bring anything. We love to have people come to New Zealand, have a great time, and be great hosts, and show off our own, versions of the things that they're making, and that need New Zealanders to be loved. Please love it, But it's what I liked that came out of those times was that kind of like matchmaking and these relationship building, and that kind of happened, and these collaborations that came out of it, and then. Because 2019 was my first year running it, and the UK thing had kind of, I already stepped into that. It was already kind of in the works. And had such a great time with them, and they had such a great time over here. And I mean, there were so many collabs that came out of that. There's kind of friendships that were made that have lasted, ever since then. Especially the next year when they were all sitting at home, locked up in England and the UK, sending me messages saying we're super pissed off that we're there, and we're stuck here, and you guys are having the biggest beer festival in the world. And so plan in 2020 was to have them come back, not have them come back, but to have international again, and we couldn't do that until last year. And last year was just purely selfish because I speak German, my wife's German. I lived there for a while and used to go back every year. And drank a lot of craft beer. What I saw there, I drank a lot of really great beer, and then I watched over the years as kind of what we consider the craft beer revolution hit. And there was, just like here in the early days, there was a lot of enthusiasm, but a lot of really bad beer, and which is really tough in a country that is just known for its beer. That when the macro lagers are so fantastic there, it's really difficult for those smaller breweries doing IPAs to try and get any kind of hold of the market. But I wanted to bring over those breweries. There was a couple that I knew well that I've been trying to get one of them over from Berlin since 2020, and showcase kind of German brewing. And at the time, we had a great relationship with a freight company called ACA International, and then they got bought up by a massive German freight company called Daxa. And that was the impetus. I was like, I wonder if this company, being German, would have an appetite to be involved as a sponsor to cover one of the biggest expenses, which is freight. And message them, the two guys here in New Zealand. And they were like, yeah, no, we do. Talk to the bosses, we'll get together. And that's what happened. So they got, we can only do it with these kind of commercial partnerships. So, the freight is kind of covered. And then Wellington on a Plate, which we also put on as the Wellington Culinary Events Trust, have a relationship with Singapore Airlines for to bring chefs over from around the world, and Beervana kind of gets to carve 3 flights out of that from anywhere that Singapore Airlines flies from and into New Zealand, into Auckland. So those 2 larger pieces, like financial pieces, really the only way we can do this. And then this year with Korea, it was like, well, we had a couple issues with some of the shipping last year, and I thought, excuse me, how about somewhere closer, in case there is an issue and we have to fly another, have to replace a pallet or something again, like happened last year, and we'll be able to turn around quicker. And then, look, again, selfishly, I love Korean food and I love Korean cinema. I was interested to find out about Korean craft beer, and I had a few on stopovers when I'd been there just to the airport, but nothing kind of overly interesting. And then, you ask a few industry people if they have contacts, and you do a bit of research, and then found these amazing breweries. And Wellington is also a sister city with Seoul, so it was like, and the council here were really keen on pushing the sister city stories, which we, like everywhere, have a lot of those. But when I found out it was Seoul, so yep, that's great. And then I reached out to the embassy, and they have a huge appetite to push Korean culture, and so they've been on board helping us out. So the festival will have the 3 breweries. One who I'm still just working through, because there's a whole different kind of export model and legalities with licenses in Korea. So we're just working through those with the embassy. But we'll have those 3 breweries. We've got the best fried chicken in the Wellington region from Keihei, fried chicken in Upper Hutt, and we're going to have teriyaki and a whole other kind of section of Korean sort of cultural performances and stuff like that in this larger piece.
Okay. Any K-pop?
Last week, yeah, there'll be some K-pop, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, karaoke's kind of like, there's always it's usually the Thursday night, isn't it?
Yeah, that'd be cute. Doing karaoke. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what the Koreans think of karaoke out there. And look, when you ask about how I get them, like I send an email to a brewery and they go, is this some kind of weird craft beer Nigerian print scam? What, you're going to fly me over, you're going to put us up in accommodation, which we also have an accommodation partner who gives us rooms. And usually I have to say, look, go off and talk to some other breweries who've been here. And luckily with Soul Brewing, they did a collab with Sudden Death from Germany last year. They did a collab in April this year. And so Ollie was like, yeah, no, they're for real. It's an actual thing. Because they thought the same thing. And Sudden Death are actually coming back to New Zealand for Beervana this year, not as part of the Invitational, but because they are exporting here now. And also thanks to Double Vision hooked them up with their Chinese importer, and they're now exporting from Germany to China because they came to New Zealand and met a local brewery here.
Wow, that is a good story. Yeah,
those are the stories,
Yeah. In terms of the other thing that I'm interested in, having been a Beervana regular for it's at least a dozen years now, how much do you think the audience has changed in the past decade, especially? Is it less beer geeky kind of and more broad, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think also it's kind of like, if you look at science fiction films or like the kind of superhero cinema, the stuff that once upon a time was niche and very geeky, and then suddenly for a long period they were the biggest movies and everyone was going to it. I think beer is, and good beer and this kind of craft beer is just normal. So you have all those who are actively involved in the culture and actively seeking out things and those kind of beer geeks, but also like the quality of beer in New Zealand is, and across the world, but New Zealand is so high now and it's so interesting, and I think we kind of get everyone. And like I mentioned earlier, we try and talk to people who are like beer curious, or like you'll notice in some of our advertising, where traditionally it might be like, oh, take your dad along. They actively change that to your mum.
Yeah.
Take your mother along. We're trying to bring people into beer, sometimes stealthily, by telling them that there's also cider and wine, and you can get some oysters and some, duck poutine and all the other interesting food that we've got, and hopefully they find it, because the other purpose of the festival is to grow the market. And this is obviously a place where, you can go into a brew pub and have a tasting flight. But here it's just a kind of overwhelming, just excessive amount of beer, and you get to try them in little pieces, little tastes, and breweries get to try and capture people's palates with
Yeah, it's the ultimate beer buffet, It's
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yes, smorgasbord.
it is very much. And there's pieces. A lot of the pieces of how we make up the festival is all tailored to encourage tasting. You can have a full glass, but it's not cheaper to have a full glass compared to if you're rounding up, or and the ticket is the ticket price, so that it is designed. If you want to get pissed, it's cheaper to go get pissed somewhere else for $55. And
Yeah, it's felt certainly. I don't know. In recent years, that it's a pretty mixed crowd, and not so much. I think a lot of the larger festivals have a bit of a boozy character to them at certain times, which I've never really come across that.
Yeah, and we worked hard on that, and we're in the venue that had the sevens in it, and it would be easy for us if we were just purely there to make money, to say, we're just going to get lots of RTDs and lots of this, that, and the other, and make it cheaper and get as many people in there as possible, and it would just be a disaster, and we'd never be allowed to have a festival again. There's a lot of work being done on city safety by the council here, and a lot of money being put into that down in Wellington, and we're working with them because we know that we can kind of control the kind of culture within the stadium itself. Most people are coming for 4 hours, then going out to the city and visiting everyone and spending money out there. And we want them to feel safe out there, and they do, hopefully, in Beervana. But also that our responsibility extends beyond those front gates and stuff. So it's top of mind, and I don't know, it's why people like Shining Peak do their 5% project. It's still booze, it's still a drug, and it causes social harm. So we try and promote the opposite of that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that attracts that diverse crowd, and I think it's some of the kind of the more out there concepts that the breweries have come up with on stands. I always look forward to kind of seeing what people have grown to. What are some of your favourites over the years that people have?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved what Mean Doses have done with very kind of limited resources, but with a friend of Dean's who is actually the brother of my brother's partner. He has a very specific kind of engineering and computer engineering mind, and he's produced those the LED. So there was like a frame around their bar one year, and obviously then with the triangular laser, which is perfect for photos of hands going through the mist of beer. Just don't point your phone at the laser. It'll invest the camera. I love what Deep Creek did with, Rest in Peace, did with their with Stand One. The not the riding bull, but the surfboard, and it was just kind of like beach lounge and that big screen. And Garage Project does great stuff. Double Vision does great stuff every year. Those have probably been like my favourites. I love what Abandon have done last year with that. Actually, probably one of my favourite was in 2019 when they had the Chernobyl
Yes.
solar panel. And I know that Tim had that idea before the TV show, and then couldn't pull it off. And then the TV show came out, and he's like, "Yeah, we need to do that."
Last year's teddy bear sort of a Crockham bush of teddy bears would be the
or the wasted management one where they put the taps in the bins.
Yes, yeah.
It was the first time that we had a company call the festival and try to shut them down. So it was the first time Tim had to hire an IP lawyer.
But not the last, probably. Yeah,
probably not the last.
No.
Yeah. So it's something that just that the stand thing just came out of those early years where there was a stand competition, and we ran that again. We brought that back last year, and there's there's 3 levels to it, so a large, medium, and small stand kind of competition, and those winners each year get an upgrade in their stand for the next year. So Garage Project won the large one last year, and they get an extra kind of single stand, and they're bringing Konbini and their new ginger beer. Mean Doses won last year for the kind of medium single stand, and they're doing 2 things. It's going to be incredible. They've been working on it a couple of years. And then St. Leonard's won it for the small one last year, so they get to go from a shared to a large one, which is fantastic because those guys did that park last year.
Yeah.
I was at the other day, and it's great.
Speaking of shared stands, Martin dropped me the hint that Brothers Beer and Three Sisters are getting together to have a stand called Sibling Rivalry. Is this correct?
Yeah, well, the idea is, there's kind of 2 parts to it. So they're going to have their stands beside each other, and there's going to be a DJ booth and stuff. And it's, brothers and sisters, so sibling rivalries. But then, obviously, the last few years, Three Sisters have done their Reinheitsgebot prison.
Yes.
Yep. So they're going to do a kind of cops and robbers thing as well. So there's... Yeah, which is, this stuff, it's great when, I love when this comes out, there's going to be an adults bouncy castle, which will be fun and very, very tightly controlled. And I was just down at the stadium the other day, yesterday, I think it was, because Radio Hauraki are back and as a media partner, and they have the setting, but they're having this massive black inflatable to the side of the disco. But it was coming from China, and we set it up for the first time, and it's ginormous. It's 4.5 meters tall. So, when your media partners also see what breweries and stuff and exhibitors are doing, and then they do that kind of stuff, it's fun. All these children, I guess.
Can't possibly go wrong. Bouncy Castle.
The Bouncy Castle was we talk about Deep Creek and that surfboard riding thing. I was kind of well, if we can do that, I think we can do this. We have to go through, huge health and safety loops and stuff for purposes and for good reasons. But it's all part of the fun.
My favourite things was my favourite experience was when we changed the payment system. And the first year of doing that after the kind of disastrous first the year before, and I kind of was doing my laps and checking everything was working, and then I popped into Urbanaut, and Bruce was like, "You made our dreams come true, mate."
Yeah,
and I was just like, "Oh," so I had to go off and have a bit of a cry in the bathroom. Because that was a real come back and we got to do something to fix that, So.
And on that note, it's worth mentioning to people who might be listening to this, and if you haven't been for a couple of years, you can now just take your Visa card, pay wave it,
no
your wristbands,
phone, your watch, no
queuing up.
You don't, And that was the big revolution to the festival when we first brought that in. Was just that first hour that people could just get in and go straight to it and not have to stand there.
All
that sort of stuff. And it felt like we should have done it years ago. But
I mean, speaking of first in and whatever, there's always a lot about the number one stand or the first stand you hit on that left-hand side as you come in. It's usually the biggest and boldest, whatever. How does that get determined? Do people sort of lobby for it?
So I mean, in a way. I mean, it always it is the first that people come across. There's a significant financial advantage to being in that space because of that. But we also want someone in there that is going to do something that is has a great idea or is exciting, or is going to use that space well, because it is the first thing people see when they get in, and dictates. Sometimes it can dictate what the rest of the festival is going to be. I think people still kind of get past and see everything else. So it is really about like one who wants to be in there, who's got a great idea, and then there's lots of kind of negotiation, and there's I'm not going to say who's going to be in there this year.
Oh, come on.
That'll come out soon enough. Because I'm still working on it. Still working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest one. There's been some great stuff. I loved what Deep Creek did. Rest in peace. They really, really went all out, and Emerson's did a great job. And every time, even Garage Project have been in there, they were in there for a long time.
Parrot Dog had it once, I think.
Parrot Dog had it once as well. Yeah, they built that massive beach.
Yeah.
And they're doing some really cool things this year as well. Which are one of those that I've just been, it's in Wellington, and they've been one of those breweries that I was just dying to get back, and they were just not doing any festivals for a while. And so I'm really stoked to see them, really stoked to see Emerson's, because I love Greg and I love Richard, and they promised me they'd be back. Because they went so big. They went so big that year, and that 30th birthday, that they needed a couple of years off. But they're always like, we'll be back. And I saw them the other day, and that's the other thing, it's a big part of my job is kind of relationship management, and it's that one time a year where I kind of get to throw a party, and I get to see a whole bunch of my mates that I don't get to see usually around the time. It's always nice to see everyone, and then sit in the background on my couch when it's all going well and take some deep breaths.
And that's probably a good note to end on, because it is all about,
possibly.
I think, seeing people, going with your mates, as you mentioned before. And on that note, you do have group kind of discount tickets, don't you?
There's group discounts, and we've actually added a thing this year where you can get through the early bird, all the early entry stuff with your group discounts as well, which you haven't had before. And that was one of the things about the payment system, changing that. It just simplified all the options. And so there's, I still think we're the cheapest of the large festivals, and you can, if you get enough people together, makes it even cheaper. And pro tip, you have those tickets that, for every session, which are really cheap. And if you're smart, you get one of those and just go by yourself 4 times. That's a whole bunch of money.
All right. You heard it.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I know. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, that was brilliant. Really good insights. And
hopefully.
It's a great festival. There's been plenty of times where I've been and I've come home exhausted and kind of said to my wife, I don't know if I'll go next year. And I'm so tired and worn out, and I've lost my voice. But I always go back. So that says something.
I mean, that's the hope, I'm very much the same. As soon as everyone gets paid, and that takes, a couple of weeks, it takes, a week for the breweries, or less than a week, it's the week after, and then merch takes a little bit longer. I'm like, fuck, can I do it again? And then, you have like a month of normal office hours, or seeing your family again. You're like, oh yeah, maybe I think I could do this. And then actually kind of this year, we went through that restructure, and I think we've kind of taken the reins of it. We're now back up to 7 people, and that feels good.
Yeah. And, very good.
To be the director.
Always, as I say, as soon as the dates are out, I'm looking at flights. So
it's a smart thing.
It's a great time now that we will see lots of people down there.
Super stoked to have you guys involved this year as well. So
Oh, we've sort of remiss to mention that the third pint will be there, hosting chats like this with all sorts of people. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Well, I think you summed it up, Martin. A bouncy castle at Beervana.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? I can just see it now. Just people, I don't know, splashing in beer in a bouncy castle. I'm sure it will be well supervised.
I'm sure. I will not be getting on the bouncy castle. It is. I think I will. I can guarantee that. If you see me anywhere near the bouncy castle, Michael, please grab my arm.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, I'm sure there are some people that will love it. Possibly younger than us. But look, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Ryan. He's a good man and he runs a great festival. And I do think that Beervana as a big festival is one that's on the up. Like the last couple of years to me have felt really good vibe. And what I like about it is that focus on beer.
Yes.
As he mentioned, it is a beer festival, not a music event. Yeah.
I think the music's there, and I think that that works. Okay, but you can get away from it, and you can. There are so many breweries, and I think this year, looking forward to, as Ryan was saying, some of the OGs returning. It'll be great to see Emerson's back there, and it'll be awesome to see Sprig and Fern, and and Good George, and some of those people coming back. I think that's a real vote of confidence in the quality of the festival when some of those bigger craft breweries come back.
Yeah, I actually don't think we touched on this point that I'm about to make in the interview, because I think it was in a press release that I saw from Beervana, and a quote attributed to Ryan, which said something like 75% of visitors to Beervana say that they will buy beer from people who exhibited at the festival. And I think, a lot of talking to breweries, it's seen, they say, it's a marketing exercise. And, what they mean is that they probably don't make a lot of money out of it and it costs a lot to go there. And so they put it down to marketing without necessarily realizing that it actually does have an impact on their bottom line, because that visibility to so many people sticks in people's memories. If they have a good experience at that stand, they're likely to go, I really like that. I'm going to order their beer, or pick it up at the supermarket or something like that. So, it is a marketing exercise, and it's a good one, I think.
I think so. And I think, it's a real celebration. And I think, and that's the thing to me, it's always, the vibe is always good. The vibe is always friendly. I think it's, it's really positive. I'm really looking forward to it. I always look forward to it. Some years it coincides with my birthday, not this year. Already planning my my beer and oysters, because hopefully the oyster people will be there. And
yes, yeah, that's a bit of an institution, isn't it? The beer and oysters. And look, anyone who's listening or watching, if you see us, say hello. It's all about bumping into people and having a chat. So always welcome to have a beer with anyone who wants to.
And you can tell us what you think of this podcast.
Yes.
We're always interested in your feedback. Do you want to hear more from brewers, less from me and Michael? More from me and Michael? I'm sure there's loads of people out there who think that, but what do you want to hear about? And we'd love to hear your feedback.
Excellent. And hopefully next up, you'll visit to Oamaru and the chat with Craftwork, which will be quite interesting. I think, and I look forward to it. Yes. All right. So until next week, folks, good night.
Cheers.